Welcome to episode 61 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's podcast, I catch up with Zain Pasha from Sporting Innovations and Sporting KC and Arthur Gillion from the Melbourne Victory. We talk football, fan engagement, marketing, membership, and much more.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for the sports digital marketer. And now, here's your host, who has skydived and bungee jumped, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek. You can find more at sportsgeekhq.com. Thank you for listening. If you're a return listener, very much welcome. People coming back and listening again. If you're a first-time listener, thank you very much. Please send me a tweet while you're listening, or if you've got a comment on any of the interviews in today's episode, simply tweet me at Sean Callanan or send it to at SportsGeek. I'll be following and watching both and really appreciate the feedback that I'm getting from around the world on people listening. You can listen to the Sports Geek podcast and share it on the platform that you listen to. Most of you are listening to via iTunes. Simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes to send a friend there or even leave a review of what you think of the podcast so far. Also available on SoundCloud, getting growing audience on SoundCloud. A lot of people on Android. It seems to be a growing platform. Also available on Stitcher, and we have just recently started uploading all episodes up onto Audio Boom. Audio Boom is recently rebranded from Audio Boo. It looks like it might help solve that audio discovery platform. A lot of sports are getting involved using Audio Boo as a platform. So available on all those platforms. This week's show, I catch up with Zain Pasha from Sporting Innovations to talk about what they do with Sporting KC. Lucky enough to check out their facilities at Seat last year. And then also continuing the football flavour, I catch up with Arthur Gillion from the Melbourne Victory to talk marketing and membership and what they're looking to do in Season 10. Recording this on Friday the 26th of September, and in just a few hours' time, the South Sydney Rabbitohs will go up against the Sydney Roosters in the NRL preliminary final as they go about deciding this weekend who will play in the grand final. So best wishes to everyone at the Rabbitohs. I know they've had a busy week with the week off, planning for everything for the prelim and hopefully putting in place some plans to make the grand final. Hopefully they can do it and would make it 3 out of 4. The last 3 of the 4 NRL grand finals have had a Sports Geek representative. So go Rabbitohs, and keep an eye on Russell Crowe's tweets over the weekend. I've no doubt that he will be excited. I will put in the show notes one of the funniest GIFs that I saw in their first finals win when Russell Crowe was excited with the Rabbitohs scoring a try and his young son pretty much told him to get out of my face on national TV. As a father, I've been in that place before, Russell, so I sympathise with you, but I hope that your son is very happy that the Rabbitohs make the grand final this weekend. Also this weekend, it is grand final eve here in Melbourne with the AFL grand final kicking off at the MCG with Hawthorn taking on Sydney. Should be a cracking game. Follow along with the hashtag AFLGF. For my tip, I think the Swans will actually get up. I think Buddy Franklin will actually play quite well and will get the win. We'll be interested to see how both teams perform online and how they perform after the game, because that's when the fans are looking for content. But first, here is my chat with Zain Pasha from Sporting Innovations on all things technology and Sporting KC.
Very happy to welcome fellow Seat Steering Committee member Zain Pasha from Sporting Innovations. Welcome to the podcast, Zain.
Hey, thanks, Sean. Great to be here.
So, first of all, for the people who don't know, and if they don't know about Sporting Innovations, they're not doing things right. But can you tell us a little bit about Sporting Innovations as a company?
Absolutely. So Sporting Innovations actually started back in 2011, just based off the experiences that we had launching Sporting Kansas City's new venue, Sporting Park. And, we found that people really bought on to the idea that fan experiences could be really awesome with some technology, right? You could use technology to really bring a richer experience than what people were normally used to. And then we also, in addition, saw some issues that sports teams face. We were facing them ourselves at Sporting Kansas City with CRM and things like that. And we thought that, having that experience, why don't we do this for the rest of the world too? And so that's how Sporting Innovation started. And we focused on solving a couple key problems for fans and teams. One is we try to create compelling fan experiences, whether that's through content, replays, or communications, offers, etc. We also focus on bringing all the different sources of data that teams have into a single platform, so that teams can use it in a little easier fashion than they can today. And then we also try to kind of help teams, generate some revenue out of that investment they make. So that's our business, and now we're based in Kansas City, about 100 people strong, and doing some great work with some great teams across the world, actually. So it's very exciting what we're doing right now.
And I was lucky enough to go to Sporting Park when Seat was in Kansas City, even though I was hopping along with the Moonbird on with the Achilles. But the whole idea of the app that I think it wasn't that far after launch in 2013, where the app was, because you've got the whole pipeline in that you're running the stadium, you've got the TV guys there, and they're really well integrated with the digital. I remember standing there next to Chris Dill. There was a shot on goal, and then 30 seconds later, we were effectively opening up the app and watching the replay. So it's that kind of adding to the experience that you're always looking for.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Sean, I was actually we were at the All-Star game here when Roma came to Kansas City, and there was some questionable foul calls and some questionable kind of offsides calls that were made. And I found myself, and having been used to the product quite a bit, my natural instinct was to bring the app on and say, hey, what the heck was that? Was that actually there? And I could see people around me doing that. And that's just one of the components of it, but it's a very compelling one, right? You get a degree of control over your fan experience that hasn't been there before, right? Which is very interesting to a lot of people.
And the thing is, I mean, I'm sure you would have been across, I guess, the uproar of the fans at PSV Eindhoven, where they rallied against Wi-Fi and said we don't want that. It's affecting the experience. But as someone who's been to a Sporting KC game, you still have the active supporters and the fans going off. So the technology isn't undermining that experience at all, is it?
Yeah, and I know honestly it's an interesting point that you bring up there, is that there is, a belief that sports is like the experience is detracted, by technology, and we sympathize with that as sports teams. Our number one thing, at Sporting Kansas City or in the Premier League in particular, is like you don't want to distract from what's going on the field, right? Because that's really the kind of the main product of a sports event. But at the same time, there are some interesting trends right now in industry in general. It's not just about sports, but people are connected. They expect to be connected everywhere. I don't think I walk around nowadays with the expectation that I won't have some form of connection, whether it's LTE, 4G, or something else. So that's a key part of that, right? So people don't want to just leave behind everything they know to attend a sports event, and that sometimes deters people from coming. The second thing is that we found it actually helps make the event a little bit more interesting when you can give that control. So it's actually supporting what's actually going on the field, right? And then we make a conscious effort, and our teams make a conscious effort to make sure that we're not distracting the fans from what's going on the field. And the third piece there is that, it also potentially allows, teams to access a different and broader fan base. Maybe the fan base that isn't as much of a super fan, and it's just the general population who wants to do other things in addition to coming to the sports event. So I think technology, we found at least, has really helped enhance that fan experience, and we haven't really seen the detraction. We get a lot of praise for it, and by virtue of just the Seat conference and kind of hearing what people talk about, it used to be that people questioned the business case for Wi-Fi, but now it seems like it's an expectation to have Wi-Fi, and you see that with the NFL's moves to get Wi-Fi installed. Certainly, Sporting Kansas City set the groundwork there as well, and the Dallas Cowboys, and I think now you're seeing it all over the world too. which is very compelling and very interesting.
And it is interesting, and we did talk about it, with the guys at the NFL in how the fans are using the Wi-Fi, and it's sometimes it's not exactly how you think that they might use it. Like they still want to be connecting with their friends, outside the stadium and telling them about the experience and bragging about it. But they also might be wanting to check in on scores of other games, of other sports, because like you said, they might not be that super fan that's all in for your sport, but their life, they expect 24/7 connectivity to everything that they do, and they don't want to have that pause when they go to a live event. But the super fan, they can put their phone, I consider myself like that when I go to a game. I still put the phone in the pocket, even though I'm a sports geek, because I want to consume the game. But having that utility of being able to pull the phone out of the pocket and watch the game or watch the highlight and being able to get that service is, it's becoming an expectation.
Yep, absolutely.
And I guess the other thing there is, I guess the ability now, and iBeacon was a big buzz thing at SEAT. There was a lot of chatter about it. Is finding that sweet spot of how often you interact with that fan, and not interrupt and not become pocket spam, so to speak. What are you guys seeing in that space of trying to get that balance right, of pushing that marketing message and pushing that offer, or pushing that, telling the fans something, the fact that you get a different notification at one end of your stadium to another other end of your stadium. How's that balance been over the last couple of years as you've been testing it?
That's very interesting, actually. And the conundrum, honestly, fundamentally, the question you asked is, how do I make sure we're not kind of spamming? And that's what we're hitting on, right? It's kind of the connotation that getting too much out there that's not really relevant. But what I like to talk about when I talk about that is I think we're asking the wrong question. It's not about how do we avoid spamming the fan. It's how do we make sure that every message we send to the fan is something that they're interested in, right? If they're interested in it, then by definition, it's not spam.
Yep.
So that's what we've been focusing on here at SI, is just how do we make it so that the content, and I say content broadly, and not just videos and photos, but just messages and offers that are being sent out as well, is tailored and targeted. So we found that teams have been using a lot more targeted communication, using some of the capabilities in the Fan 360 platform, segmenting based on engagement, fast engagement, segmenting based on brand propensities, right, things like that, so that we can at least get a little better idea of who should get what piece of content, and allowing that to happen. And we've seen some pretty good engagement rates relative to traditional marketing methods. So that's been awesome. The second piece of that is what you said. I think you talked about the beacon stuff, and I'm very interested in that, the BLE technology stuff. It was a big topic. It was a big topic at SEAT this past year, and it's also been a big topic in the press. When we view that, we certainly recognize it's there, but we view BLE very much as another data point to help us target the fan a little bit better. And I'll give you a very concrete example of what I mean by that. Some BLE use cases you see today that have gotten some media attention. I walk past the beacon and it gives me a message. And every device that has the app gets the same message, right? So it doesn't really matter who you are who's walking through. The use case that we're envisioning and that we've worked on is, I know Sean is a premium ticket holder, and he is a very loyal attendee. He's got an attendance score of 8 or 9, so means he comes a lot to the games. He walks past the BLE. He gets a different piece of content than when Zain walks past it. He is a first-time ticket buyer, and he's got a very small history with our team right now. So that's the use case we do. And what we're hoping with that is, and what we've seen so far with all of our testing, is that actually increases engagement. And fans don't view it as spam. They view it as, wow, they actually know something about them. I have an example from one of there was a client of ours that was at Sporting Park here. We were showing them around some stuff. He got an all access pass on his device, and I showed him the same my device with the same app open. I didn't get it, and it's because we knew he was here and he was an important person, and so he got a different experience than me. Right? Think about if you can use some of the micro location technology in conjunction with some of the knowledge we have about you as a fan. Right? So that's kind of where we see a lot of that BLE technology coming into play, the micro targeting, finding out who attended the game. Right? It's not just a matter of ticket scans anymore. It's a matter of, hey, who actually walked past this weekend. Right? We can do that now.
Yeah, and it's vital sort of to know how your fans are interacting with your stadium, and that's what digital offers. Still, one of the I was lucky enough to see Rob Heineman, you're the CEO of Sporting Innovations, talk at SEAT way back at 2011 and talk about how Sporting Park was put together and how you implemented a whole bunch of scripts across the whole stadium, as far as from the parking attendant through to the cocktail bars, and how I think it was a lot of the staff who were trained by the same people that do customer service at Disneyland, and sort of have that experience. How much stuff from a sporting event is, we all love our tech, you're a sports geek like myself, but how much is that customer service and getting the people right a really big part of, what you were talking about before, compelling fan experiences at Sporting Park?
I think it's an important aspect of it is the customer experience piece. I think that we do a nice job of that at Sporting Park, and I think that that's also an aspect of it, but certainly also on the digital side of it, you have to have a digital strategy that also supports that, right? The technology needs to be. We use very simple things like comment cards, digital comment cards, to make sure we track who comes in and who's submitting comments, and we try to respond quickly.
Yep.
We run things like contests, right? So I have a great example at Sporting Park during the last game, I believe, before Lucy and Beats were going to the World Cup. We did a small trading card thing where you could download it off of Euphoria. And then we knew who downloaded it, and we called one of those fans up at random, and we picked them out of the downloads, and we said, hey, can you come down on the field and take a picture with Lucy and Beats? Right? So that was kind of a cool kind of customer experience piece that the technology enabled there. So that's very important as well. Is to kind of how you use the technology to underpin your already kind of important principles around how you care about your fans and how you treat your fans and stuff like that.
One question, a couple of questions I did have for you, because you're so embedded in the mobile space, and the fact that was discussed at SEAT, the range of devices. We had Apple with its big event last week announcing the 5 and the 6 and the 6 Plus and the Watch. What do you think? How do you think that changes the mobile space from an Android Apple point of view? Did you have any take on what they presented last week? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my personal opinion on the Apple Watch is I worry about it a little bit because it digresses quite a bit from what Apple's traditionally been about. I think from a more general, from a wearables space, I think there's a lot of opportunity in wearables. I don't think anybody's yet figured out what the answer for wearables is, or if it's a single wearable, or if it's more of a unified device strategy where sometimes you have a watch, but other times you use a necklace, and the other times you use your glasses, right? Yep. I don't know if anybody's figured that out yet. On the watch in particular, I have my personal opinion is that the screen real estate is an opportunity to communicate with the fan, but I worry about adoption there. Because a watch traditionally for a lot of folks has been, for men and women, has been an accessory and it's been kind of a piece of jewelry or a status symbol. So you got your Omegas, your Rolexes, your Bon Merciers of the world, right? Yeah. How do you convince a bunch of people who've done that to replace that with a watch that's expected to be on your wrist all the time, right? Because it's supposed to be one of your mediums of communication. So I don't think Apple has solved that problem yet. So in effect, while they're producing a product for what I think right now is for the tech audience, the nerd audience who just wants a really cool gadget to play with. I worry how long that will be compelling for that audience, and two, how is it going to take on the broader watch market, right? I don't think they've done it enough yet with just the replaceable straps to replace, say, my $10,000 Rolex that I want to wear, right? Yeah. So that's the challenge that I worry about. I also worry about the size of that market because right now they've straddled it to the iPhone. You need the phone device. So that is you kind of clear the ceiling for yourself there. But I think the concept's interesting. I think that some of the cool feature functionality is awesome. I think that they've come up with some novel ways to navigate it. I honestly just worry from a user's perspective if it's going to get adopted. But I think there is a place for wearables in general, though, and I think that in sports in particular, I think that wearables have already shown that they can be used. Like I believe the Kings were using Google Glass to do some coaching. The coaches were kind of look at the game and things like that. I think there's very specialized use cases there.
And I think that once somebody figures out how a wearable strategy works, I think it'll be very interesting to see that the mobile device no longer becomes just about a phone.
Yep.
You could have a bunch of different devices.
Yeah. I guess the other question should be: are you what phone do you have right now?
I actually have both an iPhone and an Android phone. I have an HTC One M8 and an iPhone 5.
Oh, you have got a foot in both camps. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think one of the things that was really vital about it is that Apple made wearables go a bit more mainstream. Make that conversation happen. It really is only version 1, and we all know, from a tech industry what version 1 type products are. But if it grows the audience or grows the appetite or sees if the appetite is there, that's the key thing for me. And it will probably come down to whether it comes down to like a VHS beta type of discussion on is there going to be one winner, but with all the mobile platforms fragmenting, it probably will be that open source. Connect with everybody, part fit monitor. The players are all at the moment. They're all shadow boxing. We've seen Nike. We've seen Nike pull out and say we're not doing fuel band anymore. Everyone else is doing it. So at the moment, everyone's just shaping everyone up to find out where it is. I agree. There'll be the fanboys that will have the watch. But you're looking at a segment of a segment of the people that are doing it. It's not a wide thing. So.
Absolutely.
But the fact that it will make wearables cooler, it will make it go more mainstream, and I think that's where the thing is. I think one of the big things from the Apple thing is the fact that they've at least got into NFC and said that the whole Apple Pay and the fact that the mobile wallet. I think that's a far bigger play in what they've been doing, and if that opens that up, there's some really cool capabilities there for both. App developers and things like that to start doing that kind of stuff.
Yep, and Sean, I agree with you on the Apple Pay piece. That was very interesting to me. I think Apple has taken kind of an old concept of NFC payments, but it puts their Apple flavor on it. They put the clean user experience on top of it, which is really nice, I think. And I agree with you. That seamlessness of it. And people are making fun of it. I read some of the tweets coming out of it. It's like, really, it's that difficult to take my wallet out when I'm in my car or something like that? I said, actually, sometimes it is. I find myself, I'm in my car and I'm at Starbucks. It's much easier for me to take my phone out and just pay with that than it is to take my wallet out of my pocket and then pay with a credit card. Well, so I actually like that touch pay stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the PayWave technology people are using currently with their cards. If you're at Sporting Park and you're carrying 4 beers back to your seats and you just have to swipe your phone or swipe your watch, that's where it becomes that makes the fan experience far better, and that's where the technology sort of fits in. I guess sort of looking forward and seeing all these new technologies sort of kick in, and it for you guys, you would be playing in that space to try to figure out if that market, whether it be wearables or as this new technology like Beacon starts to come, how much time do you guys spend playing on that bleeding edge, testing it out, seeing where it goes to be able to innovate? I mean, that is the company.
Yep. So that's actually a very great question. I actually work very closely with our co-CEOs, my dad and Rob, around kind of some of the new stuff that we're working on, and we're always meeting about kind of the next innovative thing that we try to do. Because our biggest fear, and I'll say this for both of them, their biggest fears around this is we don't ever want to stagnate, right? We've built an awesome experience at Sporting Park and helping some of our other partners do the same at their respective venues and with their respective kind of teams there. So we've looked at a lot of wearables. I've got a glass sitting at home that we play around with. Wasn't too happy with it actually. And then, we're getting some of these other devices coming through when they're available. So we're always pushing the envelope on it, and we're always investigating new. I've already started looking at Apple Pay. And we work with a payment provider already that has already done some integration with Apple Pay, which is kind of nice. So that's all the stuff. So we're always pushing the envelope. I'll tell you right now, from sporting innovations perspective, we never want to be behind the times. We always want to help our clients and our teams and our partners kind of push that envelope. So we're looking at a lot of that stuff already.
And looking forward to maybe potentially seeing you come down to Australia with with Sporting Innovations working with Allianz Stadium and the SCG and hoping to activate those stadiums. Now they've got the Wi-Fi rolled out last year. You'll be able to roll out some things there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Those guys are great. That's one of the things that's very interesting about Australia is the Australian market it's so hungry. It's so hungry and so excited for kind of investing and innovating on the fan experience side. It's really awesome to see. At SCG and Allianz, they've made a big investment already in the Wi-Fi piece, and they're already coming up with awesome ways to monetize it. I can't talk about all of them specifically right now, but I know that I've heard through the grapevine about the way they're doing it. And yes, we're going out live with SCG and Allianz, and they'll have fans will be able to do a lot of cool things on the application. A lot of the same experiences that you create, that we see here at Sporting Park, you'll see it coming out in Australia at SCG. Certainly is the first one down there. So that's it's very exciting, and those guys, the team over there is just great.
Well,
I think that they're
yeah, I can tell you from last summer's experience of just opening up that new stand, even though it was only still getting completed as the test match was happening, but the fact that the Wi-Fi was available, it just alleviated the stress on the whole stadium. And the amount of content, because I was helping Karen and the team there from a social and coverage point of view, the amount of content that came out for the pink test, the cricket, and then when the Major League Baseball was out here with the Dodgers and Diamondbacks, it was just phenomenal. Because the fans had it, and it was like, we've never had this before. And they could not help themselves. So it raised more work and more issues, but it all good in the fact that you had more fans to respond to and more fans to connect with. But just the amount of content that was going out of the stadium, and both of those really two big events, and a few of the football and rugby that's happened there this year has just been phenomenal.
Yep, absolutely, and I'm really looking forward to how Australia kind of progresses as with SCG and Allianz as kind of an example there. I'm very excited to see. I think that market's you're going to see a lot of awesome things coming out of there. A lot of awesome things coming out of there.
Well, thank you very much for taking your time to have a chat. And when you are coming down to Sydney and to Australia to check it out, please give me a call. Love to catch up.
Absolutely, Sean. Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Zain Pasha from Sporting Innovations. If you're not following what Sporting Innovations are doing in the space, especially in the mobile space with what they're doing with their Utopia app, as I said, I had a play with it when I was in Kansas City, 4-seat. Absolutely phenomenal what it can do in the stadium. You can connect with all the guests, and please tweet the guests, tell them you've been listening and following the podcast. It just helps get the message out there. And how about that? A few weeks, I had that conversation with Zain a few weeks ago, and I would say that Apple haven't had the best of weeks in the last couple of weeks, with obviously the iPhone Plus reports that it is bending, with Bendgate trending online, and then on top of that, they released the patch for 8.01, and it is full of bugs. So I had a bit of a smirk on my face as an Android man, quite happy with my Samsung phone. What are your thoughts if you are an iPhone fanboy? Are you still happy? Does your phone bend? Please let me know at Sean Callanan on Twitter. But next, I want to have a chat with Arthur Gillion from the Melbourne Victory, heading into season 10. All about marketing and membership and what they're trying to do at the Victory. Here we are at Sports Geek HQ. Very happy to welcome Arthur Gillion from the Melbourne Victory, marketing manager for Melbourne Victory. Welcome to Sports Geek HQ, the Sports Geek Man Cave, as I like to call it. First time here, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
And so I brought you in. The Victory are going in for season 10, much like the A-League, being one of the foundation clubs. Do you want to tell people, what your role is at the Victory?
Yep, so I'm marketing manager at the club. I'll be going into my 4th season. So my role is, in a nutshell, looking after a lot of the fan engagement, match day attendances, membership strategy, and in particular acquisition, as well as the overall brand of the club.
So to give the people who are
not in Australia, people in the US and the UK. So the A-League, and I've spoken about the A-League before, we've had guys like Brian Gibson on previously. The A-League is the MLS for those in the US. It's the local football league.
Yep.
And the Victory. You want to give us an idea of some of the numbers that you're dealing with from a Victory point of view?
Yep. So in terms of match day attendance, our average last year was around 22,000 a game.
Yep.
The membership that we had last year was, again, just over 22,000. So looking obviously to increase that this year and aim for that 24,000 mark from a membership perspective. But they're big numbers in terms of Australian football, and the way that the A-League has come along in the last 10 years has been, it's been incredible to watch. Even the last 4 years since I've been involved, you've seen like the standard and the way that the clubs are dealing with their fan engagement, membership attendances. It's all been really, really positive.
Yeah, and very much so. Like, again, to compare, it's a bit apples and oranges to say comparing Victory inside the A-League, because you are a big club. Like, to have 22,000, that's a big number in NRL land.
Yeah.
That rivals teams like the Rabbitohs that have that same membership focus, and it's getting there punching with the AFL teams in that space.
Yeah.
So that's to give you an idea of the size for the listeners at home of where the Victory sit from an A-League point of view. But you are fighting for that same fan as the AFL teams. How do you position the Victory in that space, being it's an AFL town, you're going into, the A-League is a summer sport, so you're up against things like cricket and the new form Big Bash, those kind of things. Where does Victory see themselves in the space of the Melbourne sporting landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think the seasonal really does help us, and being a summer sport. I know previously it was in direct competition with the AFL.
Yep.
And so having that niche of summer and the timings around it, there's competition, but I think football in this country in general is growing. After the World Cup success of the Socceroos,
Yep.
and as you can see from the attendances so far over the last 10 years, it's football's massive, and in particular in participation. Like the participation rates of soccer in this country for both genders, it gives a real strength to our sport and how much there still is to grow. I mean, we're only touching the surface. Like, A-League in the next 10 years is going to be incredible. I can't wait to see what it's going to be like.
Yeah, and you've got that whole other element of kids who are playing FIFA.
Yeah,
that's their introduction to football.
Yeah.
That they're playing, and the fact that and football as an overall, things like the World Cup have made football far more accessible. Things like the pay TV, but then the digital platforms are making it far more accessible. But if you want to consume football in a live sense, you've got to come to an A-League game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you work in the two stadiums in working that. So you've got Etihad Stadium and Amy Park.
Yeah.
So how do you work that in trying to fit? Because 22,000 members, Amy Park is almost at the full to the brim, and then you have the big games. How does that balance work for you guys?
It's in terms of Etihad games. I mean, you've got the opportunity when you have blockbusters such as the derbies, look at season opener, to be able to, I guess, get as many people as possible outside of membership as well to those games to experience what Melbourne Victory is all about. And you've got to put a significant effort in. I mean, Amy Park is a phenomenal stadium, and yes, there's a capacity. And then we work with our members in terms of the seat buyback schemes and ways in which we can try and make sure that we try and maximise the attendance at each of those games at Amy Park. But equal amount of effort goes into filling both stadiums. I mean, you want to try and get as many different people to your games as well as keeping as many of your members coming back to as many games as possible. So it's an equal task across both stadiums.
Now, I've been, as I was saying to Arthur before this, I've taped a whole bunch of podcasts, interviews in a row. So if I start referring to other interviews out of order, I apologise. It will all make sense when I put them all together. But I did speak to Katie Morgan from the Texas Rangers, and in our discussion, a phrase came out from Seat. It's all about putting the cheeks in the seats.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that phrase. It is pretty much what your job is.
Mm-hmm.
And Katie talked about the CRM side of it, and that's something that's real big focus to you. How much has that developed over the 4 seasons? Getting that profile of what Victory fans want.
It's been the biggest development, I think, of what I've seen over my time there, and it's it's integral to not understanding your audience and having a CRM system that can help you understand their engagements with your brand, the types of games they've been going to, how they engage with your club, whether it's on your social channels, whether it's what merchandise they're interested in, understanding them, and creating a communication that fits their needs and that fits what they're interested in is paramount to your success.
So, is a lot of your job is in that iterative cycle of rinse, test, repeat type of thing to say, we're going to try this offer with this segment, see how it works, then push it to a larger segment. Is a lot of what you're doing in that space.
Definitely. And when it comes to the biggest task, obviously, getting people to games. Once you experience a Melbourne Victory game, there's nothing like it. The atmosphere is incredible. The spectacle. I think the profile of the football now is a great standard. The hard part's getting them in.
Yep.
Once you got them in, then it's up to the marketers out there to make sure that you continue your engagement with them. It's not a one-stop shop. You've got to have a plan in place to introduce engagement platforms to continue their journey with Melbourne Victory, and that's where data comes in heavily, because you're able to track, you're able to understand the ways that they engage with Melbourne Victory, and then put, as I said, communication plans in place to continue that.
So how do you balance that of in that acquisition focus of getting that new fan in the stadium to go, we're really happy with our product. We're really happy with what happens on match day. We know we can, the experience sells itself, but we've got to get them in. Yep. So that attraction of people to also, you've got 23,000 members that you've got to continue to market to and keep happy and keep turning up. So how do you, is there a time? Is there a balance of how much you spend on each of those?
And they're both vitally important. I mean, no one of those groups you'd think was any more important than the other. They're both, paramount to the success of the club. And we spend a lot of time in communications with our members about, game day. We've got subcommittees that are set up to make sure that we're understanding the voice of our members. And the ways in which for example, coming into our 10th anniversary this season, and this is it goes into what you're saying, we've got almost a split campaign.
Yep.
You've got, members that have been with the club since day one. We've got almost 2,200 inaugural members. That is massive.
How many, sorry?
Over 2,000 that have been with the club since day one. So and they're going into their 10th year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're always talking about that lifetime value of a fan. Yeah. You've had these people for 10 years. Yeah. And you know that number. Yeah.
So ways in which we've been, from a marketing perspective and engagement perspective, the members that we've had so far along our journey, we really want to highlight some of the magical moments that they've had. It's been really important for us to highlight what they've experienced and reinforce those experiences that they've had, because football's an emotional game.
Yep.
No doubt about it. And the members will be able to tell you and pinpoint, I was there when this happened. I was there when this happened. And from the brand this year that we've done from a membership perspective, it's been loyal, loud, and 10 years proud. We are very proud of what we've accomplished as a club. And from a comms perspective and a marketing perspective, we've been highlighting a lot of the past. Throughout, we sent out a custom-made pack of cards with 54 magical moments to all renewing members. Throughout the brochure, it was always we included a timeline to show them how far we've come.
Yep.
So there's ways in which we've been reinforcing that message of membership, what it means to be part of our club. But at the same time, you've got a new audience of people that may not have had any of those experiences. And, you've got to make sure that you can engage with new people. And I guess it's selling that experience of what they can be part of. Using heroes as well. Like Desop Rish is a brand new marquee. He's starting his journey.
Yep.
So it's tapping into your talent who is starting the journey with you and asking, them to be the figurehead and say, come along for the journey with me. I'm starting to make the next 10 years the best 10 years.
That does fit in really well with, I guess, the whole strategy of what the A-League is doing around trying to highlight those moments and those experiences. So, what I'm doing with the guys at, A-League and guys like Brian and the like is weaving that in, because for me, it's the clubs that drive that whole thing, because it's the clubs, fans that have those memories and they have them with the club. They don't necessarily have them with the league. And so I think that's where the success will hinge on. If the clubs roll with that, the fans will adopt it and it will sort of grow from there. Yeah. What I was going to talk a little bit about, and, we could almost put a counter on the amount of times you've said member so far. Yeah. And that's not a slight or anything, but I think it's something that when I'm at seat and talking about how membership works, it's a way of life here, especially in Melbourne. And, we're seeing now, I think, the Kansas City Chiefs have changed their season ticket holder package to call them members. And I think it's a vital pass because it makes it an emotional investment. I think probably stealing a quote from Shane Harmon, membership becomes an emotional thing, not a financial thing, because you are part of a club and not looking at the dollar figure and the number of seats and dividing it by 11 or whatever.
Yeah.
How much do you think the victory has been helped by the fact that there is this membership culture and it's sort of the expected thing in Melbourne?
Yeah, without a doubt. It's been a big part of our club. Our members are the most important. And you look at the way in which we've engaged them, and we recognise that. I mean, our campaigns this year, we looked at members that joined our team in our pre-seasons. We had little skits with Archie when they were in the ice bath. We had little skits with Bez when they're in the gym. We had little skits with Lee Broxton when he was putting on strapping tape. And it's the whole slogan has been part of the team since 2005.
Yep.
Like, they encompass everything that we do. And you see it out there at games when the players, they look to the fans. They look to the members in the crowd. They are the 12th man. They're what keep them going. They're an integral part, obviously, of the club. And I think that's a really powerful tool that Australia has, and in England as well.
Yeah.
It's when you're a member of a club, it's a life choice. It's part of who you are.
Yep.
And if you were to describe yourself, I think you'd say, whatever Arthur age, I'm a member. I'm a victory member.
Yep.
And it's extremely powerful.
I think, and I think that was one of the things that came out, sort of with some of the discussions at SEAT when we had guys like Rich Clark there bringing the UK perspective from his work at Arsenal. And I sort of, I'm getting my own, I guess, assessment of where the three fit. If you're looking at the UK European market, the US market, and Australia, I feel that Australia is in that same UK tribal nature of, it's really part of our identity that I'm a victory man, or I'm a Collingwood man, or I'm an Arsenal man, because that's what you identify yourself with. Now, that's not to say that I'm not a Packers guy or a Pistons man, but it seems that it's just the language that's used around it that makes that thing locks them in. And I think that's where a few of the US teams are now sort of changing their language and everything they're doing from a marketing point of view to say, come in and you're a member of the club rather than this transactional season ticket holder type of stuff.
Definitely.
So from a CRM point of view, what are some of the tools that you're using day to day that sort of make things work for you?
Yeah. So I have a data analyst that works within the business that is able to really mine the data that's coming in as well as what's existing. So they're able to go through and work out levels of engagement, so we can then put a really targeted and specific EDM out to those people.
Yep.
If they've been to a particular amount of games, then we know we can highlight those games.
Yep.
We've got to start communicating to them with and heighten the experiences that they've had. So EDMs have been really powerful, but from a data perspective, it helps every part of the marketing mix. When you look at direct mail campaigns that you're looking at now with data and having the understanding of it, what are your hottest leads. You don't just do a blanket approach.
Yep.
You can target that and understand it a bit more. Same with Facebook. I mean, now with some of the custom audience campaigns that you can do, you can talk to people that in a specific way, not a blanket approach.
Yeah, you can do an ad to people who've checked out Archie Thompson's profile and serve them up an Archie Thompson ad because that's the page that they're going to. Those kind of things are really, or on a membership form, you've said, what is your favourite player? And you're serving specific ads with that specific player because that's what that person's
and in print as well. When you look at some of the print items that we've done, it's all about being as segmented and targeted and specific as you can to that person to have. You understand what relationship they've had with your brand, but as I said, I keep saying you need to enhance it. And there's no point in sending out a blank document that won't resonate with that particular individual, whatever stage they're in. Whether they're a member, whether they're a fan reading it for the first time, whether they've never been to a game, you've got to make sure you can engage in the right way.
So how do you? So that's from a data point of view and slicing and dicing and EDM. Every time I talk to someone, it's great talking about Facebook and Twitter and things like that. But EDM, emails where the sales happen, like it's where the transaction happens. What I want to say, like, how do you take that data picture and then from a match day point of view, both from an acquisition, but then also helping you frame what you should be doing on a match day? Are you starting to make those decisions on these are the people who are attending, those kind of things.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, looking at how many games they're going to has been really key. As I keep saying, and measuring their engagement with your brand, knowing if they've been to 1, 2, 3, 4 games, what games they went to, what was the score, what was the experience that they had, and how are we going to get them to go to more. We want them to experience more Melbourne Victory moments, because in their life cycle, the more games they've been to, you're not going to force membership messages on them, because it depends what level that they're at with their engagement with your brand. But after going to 3, 4, 5, 6 games, they may be at that stage where they're ready.
Yeah.
And we'll never push a membership out to someone who's brand new.
Yeah.
Membership's not a decision you make like that. It's it's, as I said, it's a life choice, and you need to have experienced Melbourne Victory.
So it's very similar, chat with Aaron LaValle at the Kings and what he discussed with the Galaxy, and that you turn up to a Galaxy game and you've turned up to a Galaxy game list, and then you've turned up to 2 or 3, and then we might send you a specific offer around a game for a return visit of that team that you saw. And it's not until you get them into that 4 or 5 range and your score for that fan starts going up to a point where, well, they might teeter, or they might be, a campaign postseason. When we're pushing out the campaign, we'll put something specific to them. So that's the kind of stuff that and engagement touch points are crucial. I mean, pre, at game, post. It's not you get them to the game and that's it. You've got to invest time in, but putting content out there that's consumable. Yep.
I will always include a video.
Yep.
Everything that we do will be highlighting what they experienced at game. We've got a behind the scenes video that we shoot, and we make sure that we send a thank you to everyone that arrived. Those touches to make sure that you enhance what they experienced and keep it going is, as I say, crucial to that engagement and moving them along that customer journey.
And the thing is, you've got to, once you embark on that and you set that bar at that level, you've got to keep that bar at that level or keep exceeding it. Otherwise, open rates drop off. People go, oh, it's the post-game, email. I know what it's going to have in it. You've got to keep. You're always in surprise and delight. They're like, I will need to open because I need to find out what the video is, or what the team said, or what the offer is. Yeah. And that's a challenge that you face, daily. That of everything you've got to put out, you got to say, well, it's got to reach this. I've got to get people to open it. I've got to get people to, share that content or engage with it. Yeah. It's something you're always going to be doing. So what from a technology front, from a match day point of view, is on your radar? It's sort of, putting off your marketing sensors if we were going Spider-Man style. Yeah. What's exciting you sort of going forward?
I think what you can do now from a social perspective, from Facebook video, obviously, is taking off, and the way that people can consume videos. Custom audiences campaign has been really an eye-opener over the last couple of years. To have that targeted approach, and especially from a match day, I can now send a message to people that that attended that game with highlights of that game that we cut, and we edited, and we put out what their experience, and that's really exciting stuff. And I mean, from Instagram, obviously, they all have their own ways in which our fan base like to engage, and everyone is different.
Yep.
Like a Vine, I love Vine. Yep. I'm a big fan because it's creative, and I'm a creative person trying to come up with best ways in which you can, put a message across in a creative manner across the club people want to see. But saying that, sometimes the weirdest things will get the most reach.
Yep.
As much planning as you can do to something that you think is going to go bananas, you could put up a crazy picture of someone putting on their shoes and it'll go nuts. But it's about that measurability and looking at what posts work across all your platforms, and the same way that we analyze all the data and how we engage, monitoring it across your social platforms and working out what works, and keep going with that content.
So what about things like iBeacon and those kind of things? Are they sort of things that you're looking to do down the track to sort of embed into your membership app, so fans could is that something that now that we've got Etihad Stadium have just done a deal with Telstra to sort of bring up the connectivity, those kind of things? As that type of stuff, is that stuff that you're trying to think of? How can we embed it into our app, or how can we bring our partners in to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head there with apps. I mean, the growth at which we can get to in Australia when with smart stadiums and the user-friendly mobile phone use at match is going to be in the next level as well.
So one thing I did when I was doing a little bit of research, and that's all I do for these interviews, a little bit of research, because I've known you for a while. But looking at your LinkedIn profile, before you were Victory, you were at Powerboats.
Yeah.
Explain to me what Powerboats are and what your role was in that sort of space.
Yeah. So I started my sports marketing 7-8 years ago, and I went in as a marketing exec at a Powerboat P1 World Championship.
So is that like Formula One for powerboats?
Exactly.
Yep.
Formula One on the sea.
Yep.
So they were like 44-foot powerboats, twin engines, twin Lamborghini engines. It was a really nice entry into sports marketing to be able to travel around the world. We did like France, Portugal, Spain, Malta, Tunisia, and we did 1 week events. So
sort of like Red Bull Air Race style, but also on the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, that was a really interesting start in terms of it really got an understanding of brand and keeping your brand consistent across so many countries, keeping that consistency of your core values, but then being able to adapt to different markets. So to try and attract the people within Tunisia to go to one of your games, to be able to attract the people in France, Spain, and working with local organizers, I guess, to keep that brand consistent, but also to work out what works in that marketplace. It was a challenge. It was a great challenge.
Yeah.
It was very much I learned a lot about brand in that instance. And then moving on from Powerboat P1, we developed the Superstock, P1 Superstock series, which was I guess more of a grassroots style form of racing. So, we bought our own boats and manufactured our own boats, and were able to launch, the more affordable style of motorsport racing.
Okay. Yep.
So almost like, go-kart as a level.
Like Formula 3 if you were looking in the car type of space. Okay.
And this was that was a really exciting time because we were able to build a brand from scratch. We did a lot of local UK-based events, as well as going over to Miami to launch the USA Superstock, which was pretty cool.
Well, I can vouch for Miami for the short time that I was there. Yeah. I know I'm creating and making you jealous again because you wanted to be there, but we will get you to a seat in San Francisco. Good luck for the season ahead for the Victory.
Yeah.
Season 10, expecting big things from Victory, no doubt.
Definitely.
Thanks again.
All right, thank you very much, Sean.
Want to understand Facebook advertising options? Go to sportsgeekhq.com/FB ads.
Thanks again to Arthur Gillion for coming in to Sports Geek for the chat. Really looking forward to seeing what the Victory do in Season 10. Actually going to award them the social media post of the week. They shot some vision at their recent fan day, and Mark Milligan knocked in a goal from just under halfway. Cracker of a goal, and obviously the fans rallied around it. So have a look at what the Victory are doing. Most of their channels go. MVFC is where you can find most things. Melbourne Victory. That clock is telling me that this podcast has gone too long. To wrap it up, get out, let you go, get on with your life. You can find the show notes at sportsgeekhq.com/61. As always, available on all those platforms I said earlier today: iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and now Audio Boom. Sounds of the game from Sporting KC in 2013. If you ever do get a chance to go to Sporting Park, highly recommend it. Zain, Rob, Asim, all the guys at Sporting Innovations and Sporting KC do a great job in the whole fan engagement space and making the whole experience one to remember. As I said, that wraps up this episode. Thank you very much for listening. If you can leave an iTunes review, I very much appreciate it. In the same way, thank you, Kaylee from Scotland, leaving a message. Leatherman from Australia. Chime from UK. Peter, leaving one from Australia. Jeremy, Ken, up to 28 reviews so far. I do read them all and very much appreciative. And also thank you for those who joined in the Facebook Q&A or were testing out the new Q&A feature on the Sports Geek Facebook page. Go check it out. You can see the previous conversation. I'm going to do that as a regular feature going forward. Cheers.
Check out which teams work with Sports Geek at sportsgeekhq.com/clients. Find all Sports Geek podcasts at sportsgeekhq.com/SGP. Send in your sounds of the game. Email Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.